the first 5 weeks generated in revenue almost $30,000. My upfront was about between 15 and 17,000. They reached out to me directly. They invited me over for a meeting to have a look at their other property, which turns out is only about 4 streets away.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Behind the BnB. I am so excited to have Arna joining me on the show today. Hi, Arna. How are you?
Hey, I'm great, Steph. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It is my privilege to have you on. And you have just an insane, incredible story and background. And I'm so glad I could have you on to come and share that today. So why don't I'm going to hand it over to you and you can tell us a little bit about who you are and what led you into this whole world of Airbnb and setting up your own business.
So I had previously owned a few properties, but when I got divorced about 9 years ago, I, kind of walked away from the relationship we both did, having sold our properties. So I found myself as a single parent with 3 kids. I no longer had any assets. My income earning position and living expenses had significantly changed. And I had always been passionate about property and wanted to get myself into a position in life again where I could own and build a property portfolio. Fast forward many years, still found myself back at square one with none of that. And I have always been someone who loves growth and I love challenges and stepping into new learning opportunities in life. And so I guess I'm always open to new opportunities when they pass me by. I have had a number of small businesses that I've run myself over the last 20 years, all sorts of different kinds. And fortunately, many of them have been complementary to property. And for a long time, I think probably like most of us, we can tend to feel like something that had always been important to me, especially after divorce, was that I needed a flexible way to be able to earn an income that was adaptable around my family's needs. That was a priority for me. I was very grateful. I stepped into that. And during that time, I had the opportunity to study my real estate license, for my real estate license. And it was at that time, because I was Googling and researching a lot of things online around real estate, that the algorithm found James and delivered him to my feed on Instagram. Yeah. And I had never heard of yourself or James before. So it was actually quite refreshing, to see someone new. And it was an area of interest for me. And I just started, watching the reels as they came up. And then there was, I don't even remember how, but there was a boot camp. And I thought, great, I'll hop on that. I want to learn what these guys are doing and how they've done it.
And so when was that? Was that last year sometime?
It was the 31st of July, 2025.
Okay.
I was like, that was my moment.
That was the moment, the serendipitous moment. And then when did you come into the program, into the community?
That was the night that I had the call to find out, exactly what was involved with the program and joining up. And that was the date that I was like, yep, I'm doing this. I'm not exactly sure of the how, but I know my why and I'm just going to find a way.
So let's talk a bit about your first property and, what sort of challenges you experienced with taking on that first one.
Yes. So my biggest first challenge, which is still a challenge, was finding the funding to get started. So I had a small amount of capital, which really wasn't enough to get my first property off the ground. But it was enough for me to have a sense of belief that I had something to start with and that I could build from that. I just had to get creative on how I was going to build on that. So my first approach to that was asking some of my nearest and dearest if I could get a loan, like a family loan essentially. And I was asking for a larger amount of money. I think initially I was asking for like 20 or 25,000, and it was just a straight up no. It's like, we don't have money to risk losing that. And I was like, oh, it really left me feeling a bit like just determined to be, because I thought, you don't have money to risk losing that. Does that mean you don't have faith in me actually succeeding at this? And it kind of made me dig my heels in more and be like, I am going to succeed at this. So I did that, and I was very thankfully able to get 2 private loans of $5,000 each. And, you know, it's a lesser risk for other people to lend their money. And you know, I just thought, well, if I can do it once, I can do it again. And I did that. I also, I had some, what are they called, you know, like pay in for loan facilities that I hadn't used in years, but I had them there. So Afterpay, ZipPay. And I thought, okay, I need to get creative in understanding how I can use these tools because some of them you can pay for things in store or online. Others you can only use it to purchase from specific retailers that they're partnered with. So I just had to get really clear about how I could maximize those facilities that were already available to me.
I love all of that. And even just, so that's how you managed to pull the funds together. And then did you know how much you needed, obviously, before you then set out to then obviously pull these amounts together? Had you already sought out properties? You know, did you already kind of begin that journey and then figuring out what it was that you needed to get a particular type of property that you knew you were going to get good return on eventually and start to, you know, see good results from?
I did do my research and get as much of a clear idea as I could on the costings. But then after doing a lot of research, applying and inspecting a lot of places and just running the numbers, I realized that I really didn't see the profit the way that I wanted to for me to commit. And so I started thinking, okay, well, if I'm seeking out furnished properties, it doesn't really cost me all that much more to increase the number of bedrooms because I don't need to buy more furniture. Yes, the rent is more, but the returns are also higher. So that made sense. And, you know, Surfers Paradise has the highest figures. And I thought, personally, I don't like Surfers Paradise. I do not spend any time there. I don't really like the vibe. But then I couldn't ignore the numbers. And I thought, you know what? I need to go where the numbers are, where it makes sense.
Exactly.
And so I had to sort of pivot at a few different points along the journey before I ended up, I guess, you know, going with the property that I started off with.
Yeah, which is like, I'm just amazed at how you set this property up. I will say it's absolutely stunning for how I know you've gone about, you know, sourcing all the different bits and pieces to pull it all together. And so when did you actually launch this first one in Surfers?
It was about 10 days before Christmas.
Okay.
So I thought it's either going to go one of two ways. I'm going to get absolutely no bookings until January because everyone's already booked their Christmas holidays. Or I'm going to reap the rewards of all those last minute people. And thankfully that was what happened.
It's brilliant. And I'm so glad it worked out that way for you as well.
Me too.
And so since then, so you got fully booked for December, didn't you? So
the first week I didn't have any bookings. So like from when I launched,
wise on Airbnb.
But it was I think like a week later. I had my first guest check in on Boxing Day. Okay. And they stayed until after New Year's. So it was about 8 or 9 nights, the first booking. an extraordinary rate that still blows my mind because I wouldn't pay that much. But I thought, hey, I'm happy to take it if someone else wants to.
Yeah, that's great. And then how has it performed since then?
Amazingly. I had 94% occupancy for January.
Wow.
So I only had 2 nights that were vacant.
I mean, that's considered low season, is it not, in surfers for January?
No, it's high season.
It is still high season in surfers. And wow.
Yeah.
Okay. But well, okay.
February, March is low season.
Because January, I still sometimes I forget the school holidays are pretty much still all of January. So yeah.
So pretty much up until Australia Day is school holidays.
Yeah. So that's great. So smashed it in January. And then February, how we doing so far?
February has been about half that in terms of occupancy. But in saying that, I mean, when you don't know what you don't know, I mean, that's kind of like the bliss of ignorance. I just thought, I'm going to go into this and with just blind faith. I expected positive outcomes, so I don't know if I attracted that or what, but the first 5 weeks generated in revenue almost $30,000.
Wow. And what was your upfront total again?
My upfront was about, I would say, between 15 and 17,000, and that includes 4 weeks bond, 4 weeks rent.
Yeah. The fit out, all of that.
Yeah. And all the software, there's a few different softwares where I opted to pay for a year up front, as opposed to others where you can just do monthly subscriptions. So there was that. It also includes, there's a little bit more on top of that, which was just my business starting costs as well. And that's probably one thing that I would share with any listeners who are considering this for themselves is that, and I think this is where I've had a shift in my experience, not that I intentionally tried to, but I've just noticed it in hindsight, is that this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is not a side hustle. This is not just another strategy. This is a business. Yeah. Because it's not just a hope or a wish. It's actually a reality that you can create a business that can thrive without being dependent on just you.
Yeah, it's brilliant. You couldn't have put it any better than I would. Yeah. So you've got the one property now. So have you got a second one in the pipeline, or have you already got that second one?
I have one in the pipeline. So the owners of my current property actually reached out to me directly, which we had not had any direct communication before because they use a property manager. So they had seen what I was doing on Airbnb and loved it and were really impressed. And so they reached out to me directly, and I didn't know who they were at first because we'd not spoken before. And it was such a funny conversation because one of the owners just rang me and said, "Oh, hi, we really love what you're doing with the place, and we wondered if you'd like to come and do it with our other property." And I was like, "Oh," I didn't really know who they were. And I thought, "Oh, like, are you interested in co-hosting?" And then he explained a bit more, and I was like, "Oh, right, you're the owners." So anyway, it was great. They invited me over for a meeting to have a look at their other property, which turns out is only about 4 streets away. And they actually have a third property as well in a nearby suburb that they have already suggested they would like me to take on when that lease expires as well. And we just built really great rapport. We had an excellent, conversation together at length. And I've just sent through a proposal to them recently because part of what they would like to do is, with this second property, is they still want to be able to come and have a few weeks a year of their own leisure time there because they live interstate. Yeah. And I said, yeah, that's fine. I said, but it would need to be in low season. And we just discussed each other's needs. And I said, look, I'm happy for us to, you know, find a happy medium that works for everyone. And they were also very understanding and respectful that, you know, that they understand I'm running a business, and they don't want their needs to mean that I would be operating at a loss. So, you know, I'm really grateful. We yet have to come to a final agreement on things, but I'm hopeful that I'll be able to move forward with that. And I have no idea yet how I'm going to fund it, but when they say yes, I will figure out the rest.
I love this about you, Arna. Honestly, I really do. And you know, just before we hit record, we were talking about, you know, just how resourceful you are. And I love, like, you found some incredible pieces just using Facebook Marketplace. So people, there's some incredible things on there if you are, you know, wanting to explore other options. But so
I don't have any storage at home. Great. And then they sell it for next to nothing. So you can get some really great quality pieces. If you have an idea of the kind of vision that you have for the interior scheme that you want to create, then when you know what things you're looking for, whether it might be an occasional chair or a beautiful rug or a key artwork, you know, you just look. You can set up little reminders, you know, that pop up and alert you.
I love it. And I think, gosh, like what is the goal here ultimately, Arna? Like what are you wanting to achieve?
That is a great question.
Yeah.
Well, I've always been passionate about business ever since I was little, and I've always loved helping people. In my life, I feel like I've achieved, you know, a level of success that might not be other people's idea of success, but for me, I want to create something that I guess can be a legacy for my kids. I want to be an example to them again about that no matter what you want to do, if you pursue it and you're tenacious and resilient and you keep always looking for the lessons, then there really isn't any failure. Like things can blow up in your face. A plan cannot go to plan, but if you can find the lesson in whatever happens, then you always have an opportunity to grow forward through that. I want to be an example to them by leading the way for them, to show them what's possible. And like I said as well, I want to be in a financial position where I can start owning my own property again. I've always had a dream to build a property portfolio, having grown up with my immediate family not owning any property. It was a vision that I had from a young age, and I bought my first property at 23. And to now be 45 and to have no financial, you know, strength behind me and no assets, you know, it's probably a blessing in disguise, because it's helped me find or keep that that hunger and that like driven spirit alive. Because it's easy to get complacent when you're comfortable.
So true.
You know, nothing ever really grows in that space.
That's for sure. Look at what you've achieved so far. It truly is inspirational, you know, for the journey and the story that is, you know, the journey that you've been on, really. And I just can't wait to see what's next for you, and, you know, this second property and to third at the same time. And
my vision, which I did set out in the beginning, is I wanted to acquire 8 to 10 properties in my first 12 months.
Yeah.
That's not going to scale right now. As in timeline.
Look, I have to say, the amount of times, you know, even for us, the way things happened, you just continue to build that rapport with the agents. They get to know you. They love what you do. They put you forward. You've got a landlord who comes along, you never know, with 5 properties in go. And then, you know, you're well on your way. So you just never know how it's going to work out for you.
That's right. Having the conversation with the real estate agent, I approach it like I'm qualifying them. Whereas I think most people who are starting out new to this naturally take the position in the conversation of, am I going to be good enough for them? Are they going to, and not necessarily them as the individual, but the concept of the business or the proposal or the, you know, subletting arrangement. Yeah. And I think when you come from that space, you're kind of putting yourself on the back foot. Whereas I just flip it, and it's like, well, are they going to be people that I want to work with? You know, is there good communication here? Are they actually the property manager who's directly liaising with the owner of this property? I would project myself as, this is who we are, this is our company. And so it's not me or I, it's we and our. And because I'm acting as if I already have a large team. You know, in reality, do I? No, I'm wearing all the hats. But I will have that.
Exactly. You're well on your way to that, and acting as if, exactly. And being confident in that, you know, that's brilliant. Brilliant.
It's a fine line between that and ego. You know, it's not coming across.
No one likes anyone with a big ego and coming in there. That's an instant turn off.
But it can sometimes be a very unconscious behavioral pattern when we feel insecure in ourselves or lacking confidence in what we're doing, is to try to bolster that or buffer that. And so it can come to the surface, and then without realizing, we can be projecting ourselves as though we're inflating who we are. And that's not what I mean when I say act as if. You know, there's a fine line between the two.
I appreciate you clarifying that, because some people can look at it differently, but I know exactly what you mean and where you're coming from. And because no agent wants to work with someone who can't be confident in what it is that they're selling.
You've got to speak with certainty. And if you don't know the answer to a question, just be authentic and say, do you know what, I don't know the answer to that, but I will find out and I'll get back to you. And if you say you're going to do something by a certain time, be your word, have integrity. You know, and if you can't commit to that, don't give it time.
Exactly. And just be clear in your communication. And, you know, we always talk about building rapport with the agent. You got to understand, you know, as well, for the agent, put yourself in their shoes, how many people come in, and you know, the inspection, how many other things they've got going on at the same time.
Because when we're speaking, we have a version in our head of how we think we look and sound.
That's true.
But it's often not the same as how we actually look and sound. And when I say look, I mean the sensory acuity in your face. Do you smile? Are you monotone, or do you speak with expression? And it's like, even at Toastmasters, I'll do a speech and then I sit down and I think, I don't even remember half of what I said. But if you practice your spiels of what you're going to say when you're approaching agents, do a video recording and then watch it back and make notes on, okay.
Worthy as that is, it's important. It is so important that you do that.
Because that's how you can refine. You can, you know, identify what works well, what, you know, if you stutter like I just did, or if you say a lot of ums and ahs, and, you know, if you get a bit lost and you find yourself disengaging with your eye contact, you know, it's hard to pick up on those things if you're just looking yourself in the mirror. But if you record it and you watch back, you can be like, wow, I had no idea I'd do that.
That's really good advice. Very good practical advice there as well. And
brilliant. Last thing is probably, which I was trying to say initially, but I got off track, is not being attached to the outcome when you're meeting agents. Is I sort of took on the approach that I was really happy if the one takeaway that I could get from every inspection I went to was a new connection with the agent. And even if that meant that that agent came across really black and white about that they're just closed to the idea of this and they don't want to do it, then I'd be like, great, that's still a win, because now it's one less agent that I, you know, need to be following up on or trying to apply for properties with. If they're not open to it, then I'll just scratch them off the list and focus on these ones. But I think also when it comes to objections, if someone says no, often it's an indicator that either they or their client, i.e. the landlord, has had a negative experience. And I always like to ask around that, like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Why is that you don't do this? Is it a company policy, or is that from experience? And usually it'll tell you one of two things. Either they have had negative experiences, and then you can ask a bit more about that, and it gives you an opportunity to point out or highlight how the way you operate or your
Yeah.
company operates is different to what they experienced, and that you can understand why they were left feeling that way. Or they don't have any answers for you. And what that tells you is it's more their ego speaking, because some people don't like to look stupid or feel stupid. And if they don't know what you're talking about, they would rather save face and just shut something down than admit they don't know and ask what it is, because they feel like in their professional role that they should know all those things.
It's very true. And I love that you've touched on that, because some people, especially those who are starting out, they're still wanting to get that first property, and they've, had no after no, and maybe they've not actually dived a bit deeper and actually found out the reason for the no. And obviously we come with practice to receive that no, and then be there, like thinking on your feet to ask that, and then even how to answer.
You got to just get back up and keep moving forward.
Yeah, and just continue to grow. As you shared as well, it's not failure, and if you've learned something.
Exactly.
Very true. It's very true. And we are so grateful, and just so blessed, really, to even be able to meet people, the likes of you and so many other clients that we've encountered along the way.
Thanks so much, Steph.
Thank you. So in closing, thank you for those who have been listening. And, I know that you would have been so inspired by hearing Arna's story today. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel so that more people can hear about these amazing stories, and how, everyday people like you and me, Arna, and you watching, listening, can also get started in Airbnb and building your own business. So thanks for listening or watching wherever you are.